Hey, Maddie.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Now, your dad writes books for a living, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you ever read any of his books?
No.
Okay. Do you know anyone who has read any of his books?
Yes.
You know people who have read his books. What do they say about him? What
They're
do they?
good.
They're good?
Mm-hmm.
They're good. Tell me, does he sell a ton of books?
Not a ton.
Not a ton.
Mhm.
Couple?
Couple.
Yeah. Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tell Me About Your Damn Book. I'm your host, Stephen Lomer, and look who we've got in the studio today. It's Steve Van Samson, everybody.
Hey everybody.
How's it going? So, Steve Van Samson, what sort of author would you classify yourself? Because I've seen a lot. I've seen horror, I've seen sci-fi, I've seen action adventure, I've seen apocalyptic. How would you categorize yourself and your writing?
I think the blanket term, the umbrella term is speculative fiction.
Speculative fiction, everybody.
Which is not my favorite term. I kind of wish there was like a better term. It doesn't sound very interesting. You're like, oh, what do you write? Oh, speculative fiction. We speculate on things. I don't know. But you know, that's basically sci-fi fantasy. For sure, I'm first and foremost a horror writer.
Okay.
But you said action adventure. Action adventure is not like technically a category that is recognized by the Library of Congress. Like there is no action adventure type category.
Damn you, Library
Which
of Congress.
I think is unfair.
I agree.
I think that you always, if you're writing something that's primarily adventure, you have to call it something else, and that's unfair.
That's true. I agree. Let's make changes.
Yeah.
Let's get that question on the ballot if we can. It's the election is like 3 days
Question
from
32.
now. Question 32. Can we get action adventure as a category recognized by the Library of Congress?
Come
on, people. That's 2 votes.
Yeah.
You and me.
Oh yeah.
So that's a start. Well, because
And
mine are, and you vote now.
Yeah.
Mine are technically action adventure, although
Nice.
sort of humor. But yeah, I don't get to classify myself that way.
Right.
And we don't really have dedicated conventions.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what
I'm
you're
not just
talking about.
saying
You are my
words.
bald brother. I know what you're saying. We don't.
Come on. Boom. There it is. All right.
We don't have the action adventure cons like
Right,
the
it's true.
horror cons, like the sci-fi cons.
Right.
So what do we do?
Yeah, and I mean, you could really you picture it being like wrapped into pulp, right? If there were pulp cons, you could say, oh well, pulp, adventure, action, that kind of stuff. I love pulp. I think it's great. It's hard to find like well-written quality pulp that's not just put your brain away.
Very true. Yes.
So-
especially these days.
Yeah. Well, even back to the 30s, I love old. I mean, I'm a big Robert E. Howard fan.
Okay.
Right. So I always mention this guy. He's one of my favorites. Going back, I like him. Everybody's like, Lovecraft. I am Howard. I'm a Howard guy.
You're a Howard guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm also like Megadeth more than Metallica.
Aha! Give me another one of those.
Boom.
Agreed.
So. Yeah.
I love this topic. This is going great. I love this.
Oh, you're a metalhead.
Oh, I am. I
didn't
am.
know that.
You would
A
not
little-
know it. A little.
Oh,
Oh,
a little
yeah.
of this?
A little bit of that. Yeah.
You got to
and
tuck that thumb
I
in,
would.
buddy.
Tuck
it.
I do
There
what I
you go.
like.
All right.
I don't conform.
My goodness.
What are you talking about?
I know, this is your show. I'm telling you to tuck
Yeah,
in
you're
your
telling me
thumb.
to tuck my thumb in.
What am I
I'll do
doing?
what I like.
Fair enough.
But yeah, absolutely Megadeth over Metallica. And I secretly,
Yeah.
I think Megadeth chose the name Megadeth so that when we were flipping through the albums back in the day, you would come to Megadeth first.
Slightly first. I always
Yes.
thought that too.
Really?
Yeah, because
Give me another one of those.
Yeah,
Nice.
because it's always just before. It's like MEG. Oh,
I found metal. I don't need to go any further. I have Megadeth right here. Why would I go any further than that? Yes.
Dave Mustaine's like, I'll get you. That's my Dave Mustaine. yeah.
It's so weird. I thought for a second I was interviewing Dave Mustaine. It was so real.
Yeah, all my impressions basically revolve around like really short, just kind of grunts.
Uh-huh.
You know, like Boris Karloff. You know, it's like, I don't know.
It was so real. It was like
Yeah.
I was interviewing Karloff for a moment.
Yeah.
It's
I know.
absolutely amazing.
It's uncanny. I know, I get that.
All right, let's pull this back because
Yeah.
we're supposed to be talking about books
About
here,
damn
and now we're
books.
talking
I
about
don't know.
everything under the sun.
Sorry.
So I've got my my exhaustive research right here, which
Now that page is like a quarter full.
yeah,
Oh my God.
you people can't even imagine how much stuff is on here, and this was actually all the stuff that you sent me. So the research was very simple. So you are the author of the Vampires in Africa series, Predator World.
That is correct.
Vampires in Africa. Where did that come from? Vampires in Africa.
Yeah. So back to real quick, Robert E. Howard. There's a story I like to bring up. It's mentioned in the foreword of The Bone Eater King.
Okay.
As a story called The Hills of the Dead, which is a Solomon Kane story. Do you know
Okay.
the character?
I don't.
he's Robert E. Howard wrote Conan, the Barbarian.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Most famous for Conan. He also wrote Solomon Kane, and he's a Puritan sort of roving adventurer type who runs across ghosts and various supernatural things and stuff. And there was a story called The Hills of the Dead that took place in Africa, and it was a really great story. Had a lot of ideas, had a lot of twists on what a vampire could be. And so I always liked that story, and when I was coming up with a project that I wanted to be, because I've written other books that are still essentially on the shelf, as we say.
Sure. I've got a
Meaning-
shelf.
Yeah, right. Meaning, not done, not released, not sure when they will be or if, but maybe, we'll see. But they're just for now on the shelf.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, when I was coming up with, okay, well, what do I actually want to put out? I want to just actually have something out there finally, because I had been writing for probably 5 years with nothing to show for it, out and about, And I thought, well, all right, there are two genres I'm never going to write. In horror, I thought, okay, well, I want to do horror, I like adventure. I'm never going to write zombies and vampires.
I think you're flipping off the British people.
They don't watch it. Do they watch the show?
I don't know.
I'll
I don't know
stick
if
out
anyone watches this
I'll stick
show.
out a thumb. I'll do what I want. All right.
This is my show.
This-
You don't do what you want.
This
I thought we
is how you,
established
this
that
is how
already.
you do 3. I learned this in what's that Eli Roth Nazi killing movie? What was that? The
Eli Roth Nazi killing?
yeah, the Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I guess Tarantino.
Yes.
He's like,
Technically.
that's how you count to 3 in German. That's how the guy like ousted himself by accident. He's like, I'll have 3 beers, and they're like, oh no, that he's a spy. 3. Anyway, again with the tangents.
Sure. Yeah.
So I said, okay, vampires. I'm never gonna write a vampire story. I'm sick of them. And then I just sort of thought like, well, but what if I do it different? And thinking back to the Hills of the Dead. And so I didn't take any actual physical elements from that story. It was just a matter of like, well, I really like what he was able to do with taking some things that are familiar and taking some things that have never been attributed to vampires and sort of giving you something else. Like, could they be something besides vampires? Sure, but that's the word that he decided to use. So
Okay.
it's the same kind of thing, just like in Walking Dead. Are they zombies? They never actually say the word zombies in that world. The
Right.
word zombie does not exist.
Right.
They're walkers, or every group that they run across has a different word for what the dead are.
Right.
So, it's kind of like that. It's whatever you want to call them.
Okay.
They're these vampire-like creatures.
Okay.
And I, the setting interested me, and I thought, I've always had an issue with any sort of spec fiction or horror or anything like that. I don't like the lack of diversity with character. It's too common to have, name 20 vampire movies. The only one you're going to be able to come up with a non-white vampire is like Blade. And
Very
even
true.
then, Blade is pretty much the token black guy of that series.
True.
He's the best character.
Right.
He's the hero. He's
Right.
great. But everybody else pretty much, it's like him and his mom. That was it. And even in the second one, virtually, there's like the love interest girl is dark skinned, but in general, it's very hard to find, non-white vampires. Everything's European, pasty white. So I said, all right, my vampires are going to be different.
Before we step away for our break, I just want to mention that the final point here, that you live in Lancaster, Massachusetts, with 3 amazing girls and 1 smallish dragon.
That's true.
Where did you? Can I have a dragon? How
Yes.
do you have a permit? How does this?
The permits are hard to get.
Sure, I would.
You got to fireproof everything, so you can't have any asbestos left around.
Right. Why are you pointing around the set like we have asbestos here?
That's where it would be.
Oh, okay.
I don't know for sure. I'm just saying you can't have it.
Don't breathe heavily.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
If I don't mean to insinuate. I've never been here before.
Sure.
I have no idea.
I understand. It's an older house, so sure.
So
it's possible.
A bearded dragon. So,
Oh, okay. You faked me out.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you had a real dragon somehow.
well, I do.
Okay.
I have a real
I don't.
dragon.
I can't hide my disappointment now.
sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought it really was.
Her name is Velcro.
Her name is Velcro.
Yes.
All right. You're raising me back up a little.
Yeah, well, because she has the claws, so when you put her on your
Oh, yeah,
your shirt
right.
and then you take her off, it sounds exactly like Velcro.
And you.
I mean,
really,
we were gonna get 2 and name them Hook and Loop, and then we wouldn't have to worry about any copyright infringement. But
You could spell Velcro with a lowercase v. I think you can pull that off.
or a K.
Yeah, with a K. Yes.
Velcro with a K. What do you guys even mean?
Why are you suing me?
why do you
I
think
don't
this is about you?
understand. Yes. And but you genuinely have 3 amazing girls.
That's true.
Okay.
One is my wife, and I have a daughter Haley who is in her 2nd year at UNH right now,
Oh wow.
and she's
You're so young though.
everybody says that. So I'm
they?
39.
Okay.
Not like that young.
All right.
And
I'm 63.
Oh wow, you look terrible.
I know. I really. It's
My
been
God,
a hard,
I would've
hard
thought-
life. I
Okay.
tell you, man,
Yeah.
these interviews, they just draw all of the energy out of me. You people are vampires. See how I brought it all
brought
back
it all back.
around?
I
Yes.
like what you did there,
Although we're
yes.
not ethnically diverse, but
That's
still.
right. And my other daughter is about to be 10, and her name is Maddie Freya, and she's the best. They're both the best.
I have met Maddie Freya, and she is the best, so I can vouch for that. Absolutely. I have not met Velcro, but maybe someday. We need to step away for a moment. We will be right back with Steve Van Samson. Welcome back to Tell Me About Your Damn Book. I'm here with Steve Van Samson, and look what has materialized between us. This is some fine literature right here. Why don't you tell me about your damn book?
Will do. So this is Marrow Dust. This is the 2nd book in the Predator World Series. It's the 2nd book I've released.
The Predator World Series where they play baseball?
No, actually, it has nothing to do with...
Predator World
yeah.
Series. Sorry.
Yeah. It also has nothing to do with the Yautja, which is the nerdy comic book name for the predators in the world in the movie Predator. The Yautja. I thought maybe you'd.
Nope. I'm not
sorry.
that far down.
Sorry. Damn.
They're just
Book.
predators to me.
So it's the Predator World Series.
I would watch a Predator World Series.
Yeah, I bet you
that
would.
would be really cool.
Yeah, they'd all be like, want some candy?
Running those bases. Invisible.
I know, the whole thing, you can't see what's going on. Like, what are they doing? Who's up to bat? Is it the Celtic one or the Hunter one? I don't know what it is. So this damn book,
yes.
is the direct sequel to The Bone Eater King, which I have branded upon my garment that I'm currently wearing. So in the first book, just a quick rundown without being too spoilery. Basically, there are 2 main characters. One is an amnesiac Maasai who has gray skin and is clearly a vampire. It kind of starts out, he's not really sure what's going on. He is amnesiac. He has amnesia. And there's a woman, and her name is, I call her Ray mostly, and her full name is Marela Nanji. She's from Uganda. And she is my, as previously referenced in the past segment, I mentioned there was a damaged female protagonist. I'm really proud of her, honestly. She is, as I wrote the book, I started out, I needed a character to kind of have the first guy, who is actually a nameless character. I mainly just call him the Man in Red.
Okay.
At the end of it all, there is a name given at the end of it all, but it's really one of those, it's not really important what his name is, really.
Okay.
But so you have the Man in Red, and then you have Ray. And as I started writing, I knew that if it was just one character, it would get kind of dull because it's all narration, or he's just kind of talking to himself, or it's boring. So okay, let's invent a second character. She became much more interesting to me as I wrote the book. So.
Okay.
By the end of it, even though I intended the Bone Eater King to only be a one-off at the time, I got to the end and I said, I really think that Ray has more story to tell. So I was absolutely not intending there to ever be a sequel. Certainly not directly. And then once I finished it, I said, I have to do this right now, because I had done so much research into like African stuff, peoples, geography, all sorts of stuff. And so I decided, all right, well, I'm just going to do it right now. It's going to be Ray's story. So she is the secondary main character of the first book, and she is the protagonist of Marrow Dust. So,
Okay.
So this is Ray's story. So this is, at its core, honestly, it's a tale of revenge from a very damaged, screwed up, not 100% altruistic character who has done what she has had to do to survive, that hopefully you will absolutely love anyway.
And what's next?
Next, I'm working on a dark fantasy book that's unrelated.
Okay.
that-
Taking a break from this storyline?
Yeah, well, the story really ends at Marrow Dust.
Oh, wow.
So I came to it and I said, I really don't think there needs to be a third one, although I'm considering releasing like a collection of Predator World stories, like in the world of Predator World, that deal with sort of tangential characters that have been mentioned that you didn't really get full stories for, or maybe a scenario was mentioned and it wasn't really explored, and potentially that was something that I was that I really would like to do. I have a title in mind for the book, and that would be these both say Predator World Tales. It says Marrow Dust, a Predator World Tale. This would be like essentially Predator World Tales, probably. That's not the title.
That's not the title.
That's not the
we
title.
won't hold you to that.
No, but that's like the subtitle. But
Okay.
yeah, because Tales from Predator World, maybe that's better. Is that better?
That's actually, yeah. I kind of dig that.
Yeah, something like that. But that's still not the title.
That's not the title,
the
people.
subtitle.
That's not the title. Relax. Everything's fine. Cool. So we have a segment on the show called The Five.
Oh.
I like to
Hold up
indicate,
fingers.
to hold up fingers so that people know what the five is. Start with 3 and go
That's
to
how
5.
they do it in Germany. I have no idea.
So, and this replaces the segment, the previous segment, questions from the Great Unwashed, and it was nuts. People were asking such stupid questions, you people. So we decided to standardize it to the same 5 questions for every author that comes on the show. So
Okay.
I will now expose you to the 5. So question 1: if they published an author's yearbook today and you were in it, what would you be voted most likely to do?
Most likely to put on pants. I mean, I do that a lot.
Nice. Okay, perfect. That is a
okay.
perfect answer.
Okay.
That is the best answer we've had so far. Most likely to put on pants. And I can't prove this because of the configuration here, but he is wearing pants and so am I. Question 2. Which 4 faces would appear on your author's Mount Rushmore?
Definitely Robert E. Howard.
Okay.
Stephen King,
Uh-huh. He's been on a lot.
Joe R. Lansdale,
Okay.
and Neil Gaiman.
Nice. That is a handsome Mount Rushmore. I like that. That'll work. Question 3. What's something that most people don't know about you?
When I'm not spending time writing, I also actually sing in a metal band.
Do you? Which metal band would that be?
Enchanted Exile.
Enchanted Exile?
Yeah,
I've heard of them.
Yeah, and we even have our own hand gesture.
You do?
See, it makes an X.
Can I try?
You can.
Do I have to tuck my thumbs in?
No, yes. Yes! This you do my way.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, see, so you got two pairs of horns,
Uh-huh.
and then you make an X.
Do I look angry when I do it?
I mean, you can. That's optional. Yeah. It's like the Judge Dredd, like,
Yeah,
I always thought like I would be a really good judge. Like Carl Urban was great.
Sure.
He had such a terrible scowl. It was like he's like, am I doing it? Am I doing it?
he did look
He
a
was-
little constipated.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
totally. It was great though. Like I loved him, but the scowl wasn't there. He's like, you need like good 2 inches of scowl on the sides. Like,
Yeah, you do.
know.
You definitely do. You know, since you brought up Carl Urban,
Yep.
you know, this will exist beyond us and possibly for generations. I just have to say,
does Carl Urban watch your show?
maybe. I don't know if anyone watches my show, but my wife and I went to a Star Trek convention in Las Vegas a few years ago, and she had purchased a photo op with Carl Urban because she loves Carl Urban.
He's great.
And the only person to cancel for that Star Trek convention was Carl Urban, and we've never forgiven him for that.
And I brought up bad feelings, and I'm
It's all right. It's okay.
sorry. Now I'm never going to be asked back.
Well, actually, Maddie will probably be asked back. I don't know. We'll have to. We'll negotiate. It's fine.
Does she have to write a book first?
No, she's cool enough to just be here.
I know she's really.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know all the kids in the world, but
You don't?
She's like the coolest one I've met.
Question 4 is: what is your favorite curse word, and in what phrase would you be most likely to use it?
You know, I actually really enjoy a good frickin'. Like
Frickin'?
Yeah, like the Dr. Evil. Like he really. Mike Myers, you know, he really brought frickin' to the forefront. He
did.
Of our collective social consciousness, didn't
Uh-huh.
he? I think that's probably the most important thing that Mike Myers ever did.
Huh?
Frickin'.
Frickin'.
I was a big fan of frickin'.
Okay.
I don't frickin' believe this.
So that's the phrase you would be most likely to use it.
We'll just go with that.
I don't frickin' believe
I don't
this.
frickin' believe
Okay.
this. Mug.
Trying to the frickin' mug.
I don't frickin' believe it.
And then finally, question 5: if the world ended right after this video, what final message would you want to convey to your fans?
And don't bother buying my books. And what's the point?
See, you're the only one so far that has fully interpreted the question and given what I consider the correct answer.
I mean, hug somebody. Find someone you like, hug them. And then maybe hug someone else. Like just distribute as many hugs as you can possibly distribute until you can't, because the world is now gone.
Yeah, that's very sweet. That's very sweet.
Sweet guy.
I can't think of a better way to wrap this up than that, except to say the book is Marrow Dust. And I believe before we wrap up, you had a quick plug you wanted to make.
Yes, I have an anthology coming out with the New England Speculative Writers.
Okay.
They're a new group, and it's basically, you know, everything fantasy, sci-fi, like we said, speculative. That's the umbrella. It's their first anthology ever, and they're putting it out it comes out in February. You can pre-buy it right now. The book is called The Final Summons, and it has some awesome authors, such as, we got E.J. Stevens, author of the widely popular Ivy Granger series. We have Eric Nunnally, who wrote the awesome, he beat me to the punch with really cool vampires that aren't like normal vampires, Blood for the Sun. Peter Duder, awesome guy, he's from Maine. He's in lots of the New England horror writers group. They do like the Wicked Witches book, Wicked something. It's like Wicked Seasons, Wicked Witches, Wicked Haunted. He's in a bunch of those. Awesome. He has some novels of his own as well. Also Scott Goudsward, who's kind of like the Grand Poobah.
Sure, I know Scott.
Of the New England horror writers. He has a story in this.
Okay.
Also, a few more names I'll rattle off. Suzanne Reynolds Alpert, Morgan Sylvia, who did the wonderful book Abode, which was put out last year from Bloodshot Books.
Okay.
And Michael C. Bailey. There's just like a bunch of awesome authors in this, and it's really a big deal because it's this group's first anthology. So we're really hoping to make it a big success. So for 99 cents, you can pre-buy it right now if you go to thefinalsummons.com. And my story is called The Terror of London. And it is it is a period piece, Victorian period piece, where there's a guy who it explains not only. Are you familiar with Spring-Heeled Jack?
Sure.
So it explores who Spring-Heeled Jack was. He's this Victorian sort of weird oddity, just this weird, like a Bigfoot, like a bizarre thing that happened where all these people kind of saw this weird creature with glowing eyes, and he could jump really high over fences, and he sort of terrorized the countryside. This is real, and or allegedly real in the mid to late 1800s. And so I've always been fascinated. So it deals with that, and also it kind of goes into the origins of yet another Victorian era sort of character that people would recognize. So I'm really, really happy that my story made it into this book, and I'm really excited for it. So thefinalsummons.com, 99 cents, pre-buy it, please.
There you go.
That's my pitch.
All right. Marrow Dust, Steve Van Samson, thank you so much. Cheers.